Welcome to the Property Couch, where each week you get to listen to two of Australia's leading experts. Bryce Holdaway, co-host of Location Australia on Foxtel's Lifestyle Channel and Escape from the City on the ABC. And Ben Kingsley, Chair of Property Investors Council of Australia and the founder of the 2018 Property Investment Advisory Firm of the Year.
All right, folks, you're on the Property Couch, where each week Ben and I bring you the insider's guide to property finance and money management. Hello, Ben.
Hello, mate. How are we?
Pretty good.
That's good. Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your team are not playing finals, but you're still pretty good.
And
all your coach is gone.
Well, the coach is gone, right?
Yep.
So I'm going to say one thing about the coach.
Yep.
He brought relevance to the football club.
Yep.
He made us respected.
Agreed.
Brought relevance. He
Yep.
leaves a wonderful legacy.
Yep.
I'm a big Ross Lyon fan.
Yep.
I also thought it was time for change.
Time for change.
So there we go.
There we go.
And I just wanted to, before we go into the meat and potatoes of today's episode.
Oh, mate, I just want to get into Q&A, Bryce.
I know you do.
What are you slowing down for?
I'll tell you what we're slowing down for. Let's just cut to this right now.
Ultimately, there's a bottom, right? There needs to be someone close to the bottom. And,
Come on.
And are you what? 20 from the bottom, 30 from the bottom?
I wouldn't have thought I was near the top, would be the answer.
So are you what, 6 from the bottom or something like that?
So you can go and check out where I am. I'm not on the bottom, but let's just say I'm in the shadows of the bottom.
Yeah.
But anyone who's tipping well in this environment, seriously, they're just throwing darts.
Be careful.
They're just throwing darts.
No, they just might know the sport better than you.
So Ben, I would have thought that was a reasonable pot shot at me, I would have thought.
It was a terrific pot shot.
Yes.
Let's not call it reasonable. It was a good go.
So with one game to go,
Yep.
within our own tipping competition,
Yes.
within the business.
Oh, you're not talking about the broader one.
Well, I just want to set the scene here, right?
Oh, set the scene.
Because
you want a weighted outcome
Because
here,
the heckle
don't you?
that you gave me way back at the beginning of the season equally applied within our own competition, because I was at the bottom.
Were
right?
you? Oh, I didn't know that. Right,
so
yeah.
in our own internal competition, I'm currently second.
Good work. Yeah, great.
And in the property league, property couch league, I'm 52nd, and I'm just sort of
Property cat 50. Yeah, that's good.
Stiggy's serviceable at 81.
Yep.
Right, she was part of the stitch up.
Yep, love it.
Wasn't prepared to cut that bit in when she was part of the stitch up, but just so everyone knows, she was part of the stitch up. But I have to scroll down.
Keep going.
Hang on a second.
Going.
Oh,
Yep.
geez, my fingers are getting sore going this far down.
If one thing I am, Ivis, it's consistent.
160th?
I've stayed in the middle for the entire season. But I tell you what I do like about Bryce, when he gets pushed into and it's a competition, the fact that for basically a third of his working day he spent on tipping sites.
So all he had to do, Ivis, all he had to do then is say, "Well done, mate. You're competitive and you've recovered." But no, he had to. So he chopped one knee out at the beginning of the season. He had to chop the other knee out.
No, look, credit to you, Bryce. Well done. Terrific result in getting so close to the top and almost getting the chocolates.
The sincerity is just oozing out, Ben.
That's true. No, seriously, well done.
All I can say is I'm a humble guy,
tipper.
but that felt good.
You're the form tipper.
That felt good. So, hey, Ben.
Yes.
Do you remember how last year I was not around a lot?
Last year?
Last year.
Yes, you were, because you were filming.
The fruits of that
Yes.
are on tonight.
Oh, got another show.
Got another show.
Escape
I'm
from
up.
the City.
I got the tap on the shoulder.
Beautiful.
They said, "Bryce, you're up."
And we're not telling you where you're going?
Yeah, Central Coast.
Central Coast?
Yeah.
Ooh, nice part of the world.
So just for those who've never watched the show, Ben,
Yep.
I am in the vicinity of more than half a dozen of the most deadly animals in the world in tonight's episode. Just saying.
All right, I'll look forward to tuning in, Bryce.
Just saying, yeah. Will you?
Yeah, I'll tune in.
Oh,
I've got eye view.
Your tone dropped a little bit.
I've got eye view. I know, I'll definitely tune in. I will
you watch Ivis? Oh, of course she said.
Oh, yeah, just like she's read our second book.
And all the first one. So there we go. She has to listen to us bang on for 246 episodes, Ben. She is equally equipped
Very
as you
true.
and I.
All right, what have we got? Who won the tipping?
Tippy's Brogo,
Brogo.
8,
Nice.
28
28.
margin.
Good.
So let's just say, folks, there's some good
It was
prizes.
a tough round, right? Tough round.
Tough round.
Yep.
Pick a webinar, Ben.
Picker, I've got a few things to announce for Picker.
Okay.
Are you ready? So first of all, national webinar.
Yes.
Thursday the 29th of August at 7 p.m.
Yep.
Okay, now that is where I'm interviewing Pete Wargent, and the theme of the webinar is how you can thrive, not just survive, post-election, Bryce, in the property game. So it's a members-only webinar. So members only, right? So unfortunately, it just means that you've got to become a member, and then the details are in the members area of the Picker website. So pay your $5.
Yeah, well, my observation is you've had some quality speakers.
And there's some great content. We've got
for $5.
Some old recordings in there as well. So that's number one. Number two, we are active in a couple of states with a few things going on.
Okay.
So in Western Australia, Bryce, is what we said, that the Residential Tenancy Act of 1987 is currently under review by the Department of Mines Industry Regulation and Safety. Not sure where the mining bit gets into residential property, but it does. So we are working in conjunction with all of the representatives and stakeholders in that space to try and get the right balance, Bryce, between tenant outcomes and also landlord outcomes. So we have a meetup happening in Western Australia for all those people who own property in Western Australia on Wednesday, the 11th of September at 6:30. Details will be in the show notes. So that's also quite important. This week in Victoria, Bryce, we attended a meeting in regards to land tax. There's going to be some further land tax changes that are going on in Victoria, which we're not happy about. So we're going to be doing some work in regards to getting that information out to our members around land tax in Victoria. Also, South Australia, same problem. Big changes to land tax going over there. So we've got our State Advisory Council in South Australia working with all of the people there to try and get our voice heard in regards to that. So lots happening in the picker space, looking after the interests of all property investors. So if you're not a member and you don't have any of this information, for $5 you can become a member for the entire year, or for $20, Bryce, you can become a member for 5 years.
Ridiculous value.
That money, obviously, we're a non-for-profit that helps us provide these services, and our people are all volunteers, and they get out there and they do this work to benefit us all. So please, if you're not a member, now's the time to become a member so we can continue to work in the best interests of property investors.
Good update, Ben. I particularly liked the bit where the upward inflection for emphasis all the way through there. I thought that was really good. Did you? So
I've got one more for you,
all right.
But you're going to have to hang around for Did You Know?
Okay.
So hang around for Did You Know, because I've got some big news about what happened last week in the banking space.
All right.
Big news.
I'll be here. You can count on that. I'll be here for Did You Know. Hey, a couple of things. Today's episode, we're going to have a little bit of fun.
Yes.
It's Q&A day.
Q&A day, love Q&A day.
And we've tried to create some buckets around information for different demographics, which we thought was a bit of fun. And Ivis is going to be the little bell dinger today, because we're going to do a little bit of
speed dating.
Yeah, we're going to sort of lean on the example of the speed dating. We're going to see if we can, you and I can do the challenge of not getting carried away and get through some questions. So what we're going to do is, this is the bit where Ivis gets a little uncomfortable in her seat, but we're going to try and turn the answers from today's episode into some downloadables.
Oh,
is that okay, Ivis?
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Is she nodding? No, she's sort of, what do you call that? Is that the head sort of moves on a 45. It's almost like a yes-no.
I'll tell you what that is, Ben.
Rotating around.
That's, if looks could kill, you'd be dead. So we're going to have a go at that.
Thank you, Ivis.
We is loose around we. So check that out. So the links will be in the show notes.
Yep.
If you're not part of our Facebook community, Ben, you absolutely should be part of the Facebook community, because it'll all be there.
Terrific.
Okay? Hey, my Mindset Minute today, Ben, is is experiential, okay?
Right.
So for those people who are long-time listeners of... Yeah, there's a bit of that in it today.
Good.
For those that are long-time listeners would know that my youngest son, Samuel, is on the autism spectrum. Over the last couple of, let's say last 3 weeks, it's actually been a really challenging time in our household, right?
Okay.
So what comes with that is some behavioural stuff, and the impact that that's had on my wife has been enormous, and therefore flown for our family, right? So the other day, my eldest son, Jack, was being dropped off at his friend's house, and I didn't know who the parents were. I didn't know, and so that provided me with a little bit of anxiety, because I prefer to know. But it's Jack's best mate, right?
Right.
So I turn up to pick him up, and this is the bit that I'm not proud of. Okay, his mate's house is sort of an older, rundown sort of. Fibro shack, right?
Yep.
And and I'd like to think that I wasn't prejudging, but I was, right? So, and I was a bit nervous. I went inside, and I felt immediately bad and embarrassed because I spoke to his mum, and she also has an autistic son, which I didn't know prior to going in there.
Yep.
And not only that, she's a single mum with 3 children. My son's friend is the middle child. Her youngest goes to the same school as my youngest. They've been in the same class. And she is just a delightful woman, Ben. She is doing it tough. And not only is she doing it tough, her autistic son, I try and make sure I stay as anonymous as I can here, but she has to homeschool, can't go to, right. So I just immediately had this overwhelming sense of what can I do to help, and I feel bad from my prejudge, right?
Yep.
So that was that. I went home, spoke to my wife, and I said, hey, look, we've had a tough little time, but my dad used to always say, there's always someone worse off than you. And so that was the case. So that was number one, right? Number 2 is I'm walking to the office last week, I told this to Iris, and I witness a motorbike accident.
Oh.
And it was awful. And I'm on the phone, I see the accident, and then I heard the accident, I didn't see the accident.
Yep.
And then I see the motorbike rider and they're on the ground and they're not moving, Ben. So straight away I go into assumptions and my stomach just dropped. And then about what seemed like an eternity, but it was probably a minute later, stood up, walked, right? So instant relief. Yep. So then I went and spoke to the rider, and there was a group that formed, and just this overwhelming sense of aggression just came out of at the driver, saying, "What were you thinking?" And the poor driver, it was an accident, right? But he goes, "I'm a student. That motorbike is now destroyed. I cannot eat without that motorbike. That is the only way I earn a living," right? So straight away I start to go, "Geez, I live a wonderful, wonderful life."
Fortunate.
And you always go, be grateful for what you've got. But it's easy to go, I've got to do a gratitude journal, and I've got to be grateful for the fact I live in Australia and all those things, which are also true. But it's pretty. So what that reminded me is I can be grateful for things that I can see within 50 metres of me, because I'm grateful that I come to work with you guys. I get to serve people at a wonderful level. I'm not fragile that if my motorbike is destroyed, I can't eat. My son is challenging, but not as challenging as so. And so my Mindset Minute today is just to remind our listeners that sometimes the gratitude is so close to you, because I don't know if you've got it in your house, guys, but we've got this room in our house that if I have my clothes are a little bit dirty, I can put it into this machine, I can shut the door and I can press the button and I can come back an hour later and they're clean. Right? I don't know if you guys have got that, but that's the simple things that we've got to remind ourselves of that we're grateful for. So, all right, mate, so I know I went a little bit on the deep side then. I just thought that it's sometimes people are very kind. They reach out to me. They give me feedback around the Mindset Minute, what it might have on them. So I just thought sometimes it's good just to share.
I agree.
You and I aren't perfect, Ben. We've got stuff going on ourselves as well. So, but I am excited about Q&A day today. The Stig has been collating a lot of curating, I would like to say, Ben.
Yes.
A lot of questions, typical questions that we get.
Love it.
So what we want to do is we want to group over the next 2 podcasts, sort of by age group, by demographic, by type of investor that you are, and try and create a couple of boundaries around self-identifying where you're at, and some tips that you've got. So we've got a lot of questions. History says that you and I are pretty rubbish at keeping on track with lots of questions.
True.
So I think Ivis has bought props today.
She has. Oh, a bit of speed dating. Yes. There we go. So we've got to get through these questions as quick as we can.
I like speed dating. That is going to be the theme. We're going to try and get through these questions in a speedy way, Ben.
And what type of themes have we got, Bryce?
We are going to curate into 4 buckets, Ben.
4 buckets.
The first bucket is saving for a deposit.
Yes.
Second bucket is if you are either a first-time investor or a young professional.
Yep.
Third bucket is if you are a busy couple with growing family, or you already have another property. You already have one property.
Yep.
And the final bucket, Ben. The final bucket is experienced investors who have a portfolio that's already established.
All
and the
right.
questions that come with that. So we're going to break it up. So the first 2, Ben.
Here we go.
First one. saving for a deposit. The first question is, how much do I need to save?
So considering you've got costs, acquisition costs, which are usually stamp duty, and those can range between 3 and 6%, and some legals in there. So I'm going to be conservative and say I need 6% to cover my costs. And that means, and usually a lender will lend me up to 95% of the property. I know I'm going to incur lender's mortgage insurance price. So if I add 6 and 5 together, I come up with 11.
Ooh.
So 11 would be a rough rule of thumb for me in terms of how much of a deposit based on the value of the property that you're buying.
I like it, Ben. I am going to add to that by saying, buy properties that banks like, Ben. Don't buy properties that banks don't like. What properties do banks don't like? The ones that are a little bit outside the bell curve, Ben, a little bit extra risk. Studio, holiday apartments. Because
company title.
Because you might find yourself sliding down the LVR scale towards the 60-70% range in some of those
Chances are you're not buying them as your first one, that's for sure, because you're not going to want to have a 40% deposit.
You want to be back up towards the 90 to 95%
Correct.
range. So my advice there is, when you're determining how much to save, it's all about the property. I saw you give the... It's all about the property, so make sure that you buy properties that banks like, because as Ben said, to be able to get that deposit, you will need to make sure you can get the most leverage. All right, Ben, next one.
Next one.
On the saving for a deposit bucket.
Yes.
Is any tips for money management? Bang.
Well, first one is, the book, Make Money Simple Again. We've got a structure there which helps you organise, control and thrive in money management. That's the big thing. Most people have no idea around managing their money. What's the big takeaway from that if I'm just starting out? Do your budget and then basically just get rid of all your discretionary spending and just have a number that says essential. Put that into your 7-day float for the stuff that you spend on a weekly basis, and then try not to spend anything else and watch your money grow in your high interest saving account, Bryce.
In fact, in the show notes, Ben, I've done a money hacks series,
Ooh,
which
nice.
goes into some of the details you just talked about there.
Yep.
So we're going to put a link to that, so you should definitely go and have a look at that, because that'll amplify some of the things that Ben just talked about. For me, before the dinger goes off, think about, are you going to invest in lifestyle, Ben, or are you going to invest in assets? And by that I mean, when you're saving for a deposit, you need to be eating beans and rice and beans, Ben, to make sure that you have a focus on that's what you want. Because if you want to go to the theatre and the sport and the movies and have the red wine and have the best steaks and go out every night on the weekend, that is fine, because you're investing in memories, you're investing in fun, all those sorts of things.
But no brick and mortar for you.
But you can't have both unless you are a lotto winner, you've just got an inheritance, you are a trust child, you are blessed with cash that comes in for no other reason just because it piles into your bank account. Unless you're that person, you've got to make a choice, Ben.
Agreed.
And as we had on a previous episode with Courtney Teray, she was in her 20s, she was focused. Absolutely focused.
Sacrifice. So a couple of others, because the bell hasn't gone yet. Some jobs.
Yes.
So get a second job if you can. That's a great way of saving extra money. Make money again. Try and find the best discounts you have. Don't ever buy anything for retail. Get on Google. Try and get best price for blah, whatever it is. When you're shopping and so forth, just make sure you've got discount cards. Whatever you can, turn over the back of your receipts. See all the freebies on the back of that. Your handouts, all of that stuff. Go for that.
Bring as much money
Make
as
it
you
a
can.
game. Make it a game to see how much money you can save each week.
Now, Ben, what is the best way to get started? Wow.
Oh, I know mine. This is a start.
Start.
Yep. Just
make a decision.
Yep.
Get
mentally.
focused.
Swing. Mindset is everything when it comes to money management.
Yep.
Just make a start, Bryce. Absolutely make a start.
I would also say to you that there's a couple of ways. You may have cash yourself, Ben.
Yep.
In some cases, if you're saving for a deposit for a subsequent property, you may be able to use existing reserves of what you've already got. It may be equity in another property. But if you're first time buying and it's your first deposit, you may need to talk to the bank of mum and dad.
Correct. And in terms of organising your money, I got a little plug for our platform. Don't forget, Make Money Simple Again. So inside that, we've also got tpc.moneysmarts.com.au. It's all set up there for you, ready to go.
It's just had an upgrade.
Yep. And if you want to challenge yourself, to get money fit, then have a look at how other people are spending their money. You will see it there, and you'll see, I'm of similar age, I live in the same location, and look at how good these people are doing it. What a great little challenge and gamification for you. So tpc.moneysmarts.com.au. Get on there, have a go. It's free to use, Bryce, free to use.
All right, I like it. That's a good way to do it. And then the last one here around this bucket, Ben, for saving your deposit, I just hinted at the bank of mum and dad, but more specifically, we get questions around the parental guarantee. Ben.
Yeah, so effectively, if you don't want to save cash for a deposit and your folks want to help you out, they can help you out in a number of ways, including a gift, a cash non-repayable gift. Can help some people. I know my grandfather on his passing, I got a $10,000 cash gift from my grandfather's estate. That was very helpful for me in getting my very first property. In terms of the other one, the big one is really the parental guarantee, which is a security guarantee. So they're using equity that they have in either their principal home, their holiday home, or an investment property they have, and that means you don't necessarily have to save for a deposit. The bank will use that as a limited guarantee deposit, which will put it in place until such time as your loan to value ratio gets under 80% against your debt, and that means that you will be able to then release your parents' property from that guarantee, or brothers or sisters. In some cases, they can be family guarantee as well, depending on the lender.
Very good. So before we get the ding, Ivis is sending out dings. We'll make sure that she's distracted with her notes, because Ivis, we did a Facebook Live on this very thing. So we might put a link to that showing where it is. All right, so that's the saving for a deposit bucket, Ben. Now this is where we're going to really get you to come into your own.
Well, there's a lot more questions in this queue, isn't there?
of the year, so no pressure on you, mate. But,
here we go.
Number one, this is a question, Ben. How do I invest in property and still enjoy life while I'm young? Actually, that is a common barrier that a lot of young people have to overcome, because they certainly don't want to be squirreling away too early. But there is a way to sort of...
Well, there is. I mean, it's very difficult for a single income household, right? I would say if you're going to be a single income household, it is going to be difficult. There is no ifs and buts about it, right? You are going to have to fine tune your money management. You have to be lean and mean when it comes to that, because the delayed gratification is going to be enormous for you. So when it comes to buying the property, you may choose to go for a higher yielding property. Don't get seduced, however, for the stock. Remember, investment grade versus investment stock. From a property point of view, I would still avoid the high depreciation type properties, and I'd still be going for an existing property that has really high yield and potentially a low entry level. So it might mean shopping on the fringes of a larger city, or shopping in a big regional market where you potentially can get higher yields, which means less out of pocket. But you're in the game. You're in the game.
I'd agree, Ben, because you talked about those regional markets. If you're in Melbourne, for example, you can go to Ballarat or Geelong.
Yes.
If you're in Sydney, you go to Wollongong or the Central Coast, just to get on the ladder on a smaller budget and then move your way in. I'd also say play the big picture here. So don't get seduced by incentives, Ben, because when you're young, it's quite easy to say, well, I can sell a bit of a lifestyle because someone over here is offering me a $10,000 or a $20,000 incentive, which is great to get into the market. But you've got to remember, once you're in the market, it's got to be able to serve you going forward. Because if the asset's no good, sure, you may have got help to get in there, but you might be also stuck.
So keep using demand and supply principles. Have a look at those types of things, because you can get into regional areas where there is a propensity for short-term growth. So that's helpful if you get into those markets. Make sure you use tools like locationscore.com.au, another little plug in there, but that one is valuable.
We can get one suburb for free.
You get one suburb for free?
Yep, check it out.
So check it out.
Stiggy's right onto us. So how much does it really cost, and how long does it take, Ben, to build a property portfolio I can live off?
Oh, okay. So in theory, if you want to do it slowly and steady and pick up 4 or 5 really good properties, or even 3 or 4 really good properties, 30 to 40 years, you can be living very comfortably, and that's not really changing materially your financial position. That's still living and enjoying life on that journey. If you want to do it quicker, more aggressively, you could get it done as little as 15 years, but that is all you focus in on, and you would probably be doing some type of value adding. And also don't forget, that comes down to how much you want. So those numbers that I've just given you there is around $100,000 a year in passive income. So most of our clients have a 30 to 40 year window that they're going to achieve that to be able to do that. Remembering that you will have super on top of that as well, right? So you don't have to have a lot of properties to be able to do it, and we're well documented in terms of just having a couple of really good properties to be able to get you over the line.
Well said. A couple of things to add to that. That what Ben just talked about then is a get-rich-slow scheme. If you want a get-rich-quick scheme, we can't help you. If you want a get-rich-slow scheme, we can definitely help you. A couple of things to think about the rule. We call it the rule of 25, Ben. So if you work out, we've got a video that Ivis will put in the show notes for us. There's a video around the rule of 25, which basically gives you an idea of what you're aiming for. Because the biggest trap that most people, not most people, but a lot of people, Ben, is they focus on the number, not the value. I've got 20 properties. Who cares? What's the value? Where are they? And are they likely to grow? Because I know people who have got 6 and 7 property portfolios, 3 and 4 property portfolios that are better than some people who've got 20 plus properties. So it's not the number, it's the value that counts. And then if you understand the rule of 25, we'll show you how much real estate you will need outside the income producing assets, outside of the family home, to provide you with a passive income. I saw what you did there.
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about, bro.
Passive income going forward. So, and the last thing for me, even though the dinger's gone off.
Oh, overriding the dinger.
Well, I was just taking your lead. You don't have to pay off their debt entirely, Ben.
No, you don't.
You can. The desire is to be debt free.
Yes.
But you can actually get a live off the portfolio.
Some strategies that professionals might advise you to do is to buy several and then pay down the debt by selling 1 or 2 off. So
my turn, return serve. All right, number 3 on this one. Can I afford an investment property without having a spouse or a partner, Ben?
I did mention that earlier. It's a little bit harder for those who want to get into the space, but you can still buy investment grade. Here, ready for this? Investment grade investment properties for under $200,000. All right. Now, remember, they're serving a different purpose. They're not a pure capital growth play.
The phones have lit up.
But so you can find them around the country, and they will be paying you, or they'll be costing you basically nothing to own and operate. In fact, given where interest rates are today, you might even see that they might be spinning off a little bit of cash flow positive. So be very careful about how you're buying those. Try and get some advice around them. But you're going to be in regional areas, tourism areas, holiday location areas, but you can find those particular properties, and if they go well and there's a little mini boom that goes on in that location, you might even experience some capital growth.
Yes. Very well, Ben. So all things being equal, what I'll add here is we go growth first, balance second, yield third. But what you just said about is that might be flipped.
Correct.
Depending on where you're at, you might need to build up the income first.
And the assumption on that was a $70,000 to $80,000 income. The higher the income go, like if you're a single person on 150, you're going to be okay, right? You don't have to necessarily go into those higher yielding locations. You could pick up a nice, reliable and durable, balanced asset in capital city for that sort of, if you've got that type of income.
It's a good little nuance that you just picked up on then, because it's not, you don't have to do it as a partnership. It's really just about having the resources.
Correct.
Very good. All right, we missed the ding on that one, so which is good. Number 4, who can I trust to set me on the right pathway to success, in brackets, without having to sit through hours of hyped up seminars with hard sell pitches, or spend 10,000 hours achieving expert status when I don't have the time but want to achieve this myself? Good question.
I think then you're outsourcing the expertise.
Yes.
And if you're going to outsource that expertise, you're just going to have to pay a professional advisor to do that work. So don't fall in for the hyped merchants who say, we can help you do it for free, because you'll get stung. Make sure you're working with a professional who does the work in regards to fee for service and usually fixed fee.
Ben touched on it very well there. Outsource the expertise, but do not outsource the understanding, Ben. So you can still have a good idea of understanding the bigger mental models, the frameworks that you need to be. Clearly, our podcast is a great way to start, but understand what's going on. There's a whole heap of resources that we'll put a link. In fact, we'll put a link to Facebook Live we recently did on how the industry gets paid, Ben.
Yes.
So that you can certainly understand what to look for, so that you can outsource the expertise, but you don't have to outsource the understanding.
Well done, good job.
All right, next one is, what types of properties should I be looking at, Ben? Units, houses, off the plan, new established, or perhaps even commercial properties? Wow.
Well, it's case by case, as always is, but it's land value that is the underpinning asset that does appreciate. So the concept of land to asset ratio is alive and well when it comes to resi property and long-term sustainable capital growth. So if you can ascertain a property that has a good land value component compared to the improvements, i.e. the property that sits on that, you will be served well. Be mindful, however, Bryce, of the fact that you want scarcity. You want a low supply in that particular thing. So for some people, and that's a pure capital growth statement, because units still perform very well, certainly in smaller blocks, in better locations. So that's the trade-off. I wouldn't be buying a house and land package out wide 40 or 50 kilometres from a city compared to a unit that might be in an inner city chic area where I know that I've got a very, very good land to asset ratio based on the land underneath being worth millions of dollars. So it's important to understand that concept.
This could be and has been an entire podcast topic of itself. So to get the 30,000 foot level, just a reminder that property investing is a game of finance just as much as it's a game of bricks and mortar. So I touched on it before. You need to be looking at properties that the banks actually like because you need to get the funding. And second, property is no different to a widget. It's a game of supply and demand. So you need to be finding properties that are just because here's the muddying of the waters.
Yep.
It's an essential need. You need to put a roof over your head.
Correct.
So therefore, it's quite easy to think that all properties are the same. And that's the challenging part for people. They are 100% understanding of what it takes to put a roof over their head, but it's not exactly the same of knowing what it is to invest in a property. So take the time to understand the concepts that Ben was talking about before, because supply is the enemy of price with a widget. Supply is the enemy of capital growth with a house, right? So the thing is that you need to understand what is in demand, what makes people want to buy that one over that one, Ben, so that the rarer ones that have the scarcity and have the owner-occupier appeal and have that investment grade.
No ding, that Bryce, so I'm going forward. Oh, no.
Mate, you preempted that.
Oh, no, she was cheeky. New. If new outperformed old, we would buy new.
Yes.
If the data suggests that new properties over the long term actually did deliver outperform results, that's what we would say buy.
Yes.
But the history tells us that the inflated value sold on the emotion of all of the new components of that house means people pay a premium for that. The ultimate buying, the skill of buying is buying an established property that's been tested in the marketplace. And we can see how well they have performed over time, and that's where you get a better return on your investment. So remember, we've got our investment hats on here today, and so we're talking about buying existing property because we want to get a better return on investment than buying brand new. Even though we might get some tax write-downs, it's not as good as the beautiful thing, the bee's knees of property investing, which is capital growth. All right, I really did get wound up on that one.
The next one is, what's the best way to get a loan and structure everything for maximum returns, comfortable serviceability, and potential tax savings? Good luck with trying to do that in a couple of minutes.
Yeah. Oh, look, there's a bit in that.
There's a bit in that.
You want to be dealing with someone who's had a lot of experience in structuring finance for investment purposes. And you've got to understand that you're going to be buying several properties over the journey. So as part of that planning process, you want to be in a position where you are planning for that next move on the chessboard. So we would always say an investment savvy mortgage broker is a good starting point. Remember, they are paid by the lender, but they also need to bring their expertise to the table. And how they will do that is they may allow you to structure up your Money Smarts setup, which is your offset account against your principal home, and then releasing some equity in a separate split, and then ultimately doing an 80% lend against that investment property if you've got equity in your home and so forth. So there is a lot there in terms of what you should be looking for, but ultimately for me, it's around making sure that I am able to make the next move comfortably, and that has been considered by my professional finance advisor.
I like it, Ben. A couple of things to keep in mind is the difference between joint tenants and tenants in common. Joint tenants has the rule of survivorship applying, which means my wife and I buy a property, one of us passes, automatically our share passes to the other person upon death. Versus if I was tenants in common on that same percentage, Ben, my share would go to whoever goes through the will, for example. So typically speaking, partnerships, domestic partnerships, Ben, are joint tenants. Typically business partnerships are tenants in common. But Why is that important? Well, you might have someone in the partnership, if you're buying with another person, who has extraordinarily high income. So you might want to weight it to be, maybe they own 90%, you own 10, or they might want to be 99 and 1, or in fact they might want to do 100%, Ben. So they asked, the question here was about the potential tax savings. You need to talk to an accountant to better understand, not only is that income at the point of buying, but will that income also be the case moving forward? Is that just because someone is on a sabbatical, someone's on maternity leave, someone's on temporary assignments that mean their income is lower? So first of all, I saw what you did there. First of all, understand that. Secondly, understand stand-alone lending. Understand that mortgage insurance is something that should be embraced if you cannot afford it, Ben.
Yep.
So if you cannot avoid it.
Avoid it.
Avoid it.
You have to be able to afford it.
You have to be able to afford it. But if you can avoid lender's mortgage insurance, avoid it.
Yep.
But if you need to embrace it to be able to buy an asset, then embrace it.
Very, very good. Well done. What do we got next?
All right. Last one here for this particular bucket of grouping, Ben, is rent vesting. Is rent vesting a good way to start?
Is rent vesting a good way to start? Yes, it is. It's where you're able to get the advantages of having someone who is going to pay the rent, obviously your tenant in the property that you do buy, and you're keeping your costs low. So rent vesting is a means by which you can live in a location that you want to live, but you're putting the difference between what you may have to contribute into a mortgage for an owner-occupied property into an investment property. Okay, so you're trapping that extra surplus and you're controlling an asset. So it is giving you a good outcome in terms of living where you want to live and also helping you get on that wealth building journey that you want to get on.
I like it, Ben. It was really established by sort of later Gen Xers and really embraced by Gen Ys, wasn't it? Where they sort of went, I don't think I'm prepared to do what the baby boomers did and go way further out and work my way in.
Yep.
So why don't I actually just stay where I want to be in the lifestyle that I want to enjoy and still put my money to work by investing somewhere else, which is good. Hey, Ben, I think you would well and truly agree on this. You've got to be clear that it's not a 5-minute thing, rent vesting, because if you go into that process, it's like the Titanic.
Yep.
It takes a while to turn the ship.
Yep.
And you need to make sure that it's not something that's just a fad that you might change your mind in 2 years, because putting an owner-occupied property into the portfolio, into the plan, once you've kicked on down the track, can throw your agenda out pretty quickly, can't it?
It can, and that's why, we did a cover story, Bryce, for the Money magazine on rent vesting. That's another great link where you can get more details, and it'll show you different case studies in terms of what considerations a single person who wanted to flat share had to do versus also a couple with a family in terms of putting themselves in a better location to maybe take advantages of the infrastructure, maybe the school zones, as opposed to buying in that location as well. So that's really good. But we did miss one, Bryce. We did miss one. What's the best way to get started, Bryce? What's the best way to get started? Taking into consideration life changes that will occur in the coming years. So over to you, my friend.
Well, mate, that's the reason we didn't do that is because it was already in the saving for deposit one up there. So we're gonna. That's why I skipped it, but I suppose it's got a different consideration. Okay. Ben, what I was doing is making sure that you were paying attention.
I think it's a good summary one, right? I think you're leaving it for the summary.
Sure you were paying attention.
Right, I'm paying attention because I was ticking the ones as you went through them. I love the fact that you have to do all the reading and I just sit back.
Yeah,
it's great.
You got the easy job, wouldn't you say?
I would say that, yes, absolutely.
The best way to get started is, I think, by way of an analogy, I've used this before, Ben, is if you're going to build a house, it's no point just getting the builder in to build a house, because you need to be able to take the bigger picture view of what's the orientation, how do I get best use of the sun, how do I get the best use of my living areas, how do I get best use of, hey, my kids are this age now, but they're going to be teenagers soon, we're going to be empty nesters soon. You're actually doing some long-range planning around a decision that you want to enjoy right now.
Correct.
I think that property investing is a process, not an event, and I think a lot of people treat it like an event.
Yep.
So that was a long way of saying I reckon you should do some 30,000 foot work first.
Yep. Cash flow work is everything.
Absolutely. You've got to be clear on where you're headed.
Yep.
And as one listener correctly pointed out to me, you don't then reverse engineer. You actually just engineer where you want to be. But you want to know where you're headed, how much passive income, what your current resources are, and then work out a plan to get there.
So it's the classic case of CBAD, which I'll finish that off. So cash flow, then borrowing, then asset selection, and then defence. If you understand all of those concepts as part of the proven principles that we go through, you will be able to get started comfortably, not overextend yourself where you get into too much trouble, because life is going to change, especially if you're looking to have a family, and that's going to impact on cash flow. So cash flow is king. Get that sorted out, have a bit of planning in that, and then you should be unstoppable once you've done that hard work. And again, if you don't want to do that yourself, you can always refer to a QPIA, Qualified Property Investment Advisor, who can steer you in the right direction if property investment is a thing for you.
I like it. You've got to get a check-up from the neck up, Ben.
Yep.
How'd you like that, Zig Ziglar?
Check-up from the neck up.
That's,
right,
Zig Ziglar right there. Because, Ben, you want to actually you want to get things right. You want to play, you want to buy the right asset.
Yes.
You want to correctly finance it. And here comes the clincher. You want to hold it for the long term.
You do. If it's a good one, you want to keep it in your kitty. Keep it in the kitty.
So the best way to get started is to don't get seduced by get rich quick. Don't get seduced by the magazines where you've seen someone do 7 properties in 7 months. Be really clear on where you're headed. I'm just winding up, mate.
Speed dating. We've just been wound up by Ivis. There she is. She's like, rightio, you guys.
We're going to see if Ivis wants to swap numbers at the end of this, but I'm by the look on her face, probably not. So, but there you go, folks. So 4 buckets.
Speed dating Q&A today.
First one bucket was saving for a deposit. Second one was for first-time investors, young professionals. Next week, Ben.
Next week, Bryce,
we're going to continue this speed date.
Busy couples with growing families, or you have one investment property, or Bryce, experienced investors with established portfolios. So wait for next week to get into those. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 21 questions. There we go.
That wasn't even prompted by me, folks. That was all Stiggy. So there you go.
Very good. She loves it when I get into the numbers on a listening podcast.
Well done, Ben. You accepted the challenge. I didn't think that you would. Oh, there was a couple there that went a little over. But
I've never speed dated before, Bryce, but I've enjoyed the experience.
All right, my life hack today is sent to me by none other. Ben, you'll like this.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. I like it when other people send them in. They're usually better than yours.
That's fair enough. I'm happy to take those heckles. I give as good as I get.
It's a bit of fun.
I give as good as I get. Don't worry about that. This is from the Stig.
Oh,
it's from the Stig, Ben.
The Stig sent one in.
Yes.
Well done, Ivis.
Thanks, Ivis.
Very good.
She didn't. It wasn't verbal. She wrote to me as well. Just went through the channels.
Did she do the speak pipe? Would have to play her voice. That's why she didn't do it.
Yeah, she won't do
That's why she didn't. She knew that. Look, she's having a little giggle to herself.
So, Ivis, thank you for this. Android hack. It's an Android hack.
Oh, well, you did call for some Android hacks.
For some Android hacks, so she has delivered.
Good work, Ivis.
Good to see she's finally lifting after 246.
No, I'm
only serious.
Go the Stig.
The camera in the Android, according to Ivis, I got to declare, unsubstantiated by me, but according to Ivis, the camera can be used as a QR code scanner. No need for any additional app. Ben.
Oh, good stuff.
So
no, trapped environment like some other fruit that we know that lives on the planet.
You've come off a short run too, haven't you? You need a longer run. So I'd like
someone who's about to buy their watch. Oh gosh, there you go.
Is she going to buy an Apple Watch?
Yeah, I've got to buy one. I just keep missing meetings, right? So I need something to just zap me, to just get me to the next.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to get a watch that. Because if I don't carry my phone, as you know, I don't like the phone. Like it's just another thing. It's another distraction.
Of all the great things you are good at, you are ridiculously bad at returning text messages.
Yeah. Well, I've got other things to do. If I spent my day replying to the 250 emails and 40 text messages I get each day, I'd never get anything done.
Yeah, I just thought maybe I might have got a bit of priority, Ivis, but no.
No.
I batch them.
That's good.
I batch them.
That's good.
I batch.
Apple
I use
Watch,
productivity. So, but I do miss meetings, right? Because I get caught up in another meeting.
Oh, knock me over with a feather. Like
I need to be somewhere. I need something to. I need to do something else because when I deep dive, I spend a bit of time, and time flies when I deep dive.
So, mate, did you know?
Did you know, Bryce? Well, there was.
Did you know that you're getting an Apple Watch? No, I did not know.
No, this sort of little thing. It could be something like an Apple Watch. It might be an Apple Watch. Okay, so this is big news. Quick backstory, right?
Sure.
At the end of last year, ASIC charged Westpac banking group with responsible lending breaches laws, 261,987 home loan applications between 2011 and 2015. Right, so they were taking them to court. Westpac says, all right, look, let's see if we can get something sorted out in mediation. They went to mediation, decided on a $35 million penalty.
Oops.
Right, so that was all good. But Westpac said, well, let's just get it validated through the courts to make sure that it was a situation where, it was unlawful. So the court said, let's have a look at this, and went, I don't think there's an issue here. I don't think there's been a breach of responsible lending guidelines, but I'm going to ask a friend of the court, which means that that's one judge asking for a view of another judge. And we had the ruling come back from Justice Nay Perham in terms of what that looked like, and he said, nothing to see here. Mm-hmm. Now, from my point of view, this is a common sense judgment. And I really like that because we've been talking about how we felt that based on past Royal Commission inquiry, it's just going to go completely. I've always said business and life is about a pendulum that moves in one direction and the other, and you're always forever trying to get the balance right. There's never too much social welfare you can do. There's never too little. So it just moves. There's never too much in terms of what people earn. Blah blah blah. Right. In my life, I think it's all about pendulum movements and not going too extreme to the right, to the left. Blah blah blah. I like the middle. The middle's good. So in this particular case, they made this judgment because Westpac used the HEM. Now a HEM is the household expenditure method, and basically how it works is it looks at family size and income, and then does a list of 12 to 13 expenditure items, and Westpac were using that as a baseline. Now, I particularly like the comment that was made by the judge in his ruling, and I want to read this to you because I think it makes perfect sense to me. The problem with ASIC's argument is that the mere fact that there are living expenses is not necessarily relevant to whether a consumer will be unable to comply with their loan obligations, because it's always possible that some of the living expenses might be foregone, is what he talked. Now, this is what he said. I may eat Wagyu beef every day, washed down by the finest Shiraz. But if I really want a new home, I can make do with some more modest fare.
T-bone steak,
So
that's your point. You've been saying that for a while.
I've been saying this for so long.
Yes.
And it's just nice to see that people in authority also have a balanced view on what's... So it was silly. I mean, we had examples of handbags, one-off purchases, and the credit assessors. Now, rightly so are the banks paranoid. I mean, if you think about just CBA's remediation, it's in the billions, right? So they are very cautious. So here's the pendulum, right? You get a big inquiry, you get sensational journalism, boom, we've got to go to one extreme. No, don't go to the extreme. The answer's somewhere in the middle. Now we've got it coming back again. We're now seeing, builders and people talking to politicians about we're not lending money because everything's gone to an extreme. So it's about getting the balance right. So the pendulum is now moving hopefully back towards the centre. We're seeing APRA doing the same thing because remember, APRA were the ones who caused this slowdown in the economy on the back of some fears around major tax reform from the Labor Party. So that's the story there. So I thought that one's a good one. But the irony, this week, Westpac come out with changes to their servicing calculators on the back of actually winning that. And I think this is also reasonable. Like everyone's trying to get the answer in the middle. There's currently a review going on by ASIC in regards to, I think it's the RG 209 in regards to responsible lending, because everyone felt that obviously from the commission, the Royal Commission, that okay, no one's doing responsible lending. We are. We all are trying our very best to determine that. But we also think that most consumers, not all, there'll always be the odd one who won't tighten up their belt, but most consumers, when they take on a debt obligation, will adjust how they live their lives. And that's the grey bit for ASIC, unfortunately. They're trying to get that more aligned to the law and making sure that they're prosecuting appropriately, because again, there will be people who do the wrong thing and give people money when they shouldn't get money. So they've made some changes to their HEM. I won't go into details on it. They've also, this one's a big one for property investors, the debt to income ratio. So Westpac have stated that when total liabilities are 7 or more higher times than gross household income, so if your debt is 7 times higher, it will automatically go to an assessor, irrespective of whether the system, the decision tool says it's a pass, and we're happy to give you the money. So that is a flag for investors right there to sort of say, we have an appetite for some investment lending. And so I think, in terms of the stuff we've been teaching, don't be greedy, don't try and get 15 or 20 properties, don't try and, the world is changing, and that's about fairness too. You don't need that many properties to live a comfortable, successful life in financial peace. So that debt to income ratio is being looked at. So what did I say, debt to income ratio? The serviceability assessment changing on margin loans is also being adjusted, and they've got a new approach to tax debt. So this is the sort of stuff that's going to come out, and our job to our community, we've promised you we're about teaching and educating, so we'll do more and more of this sort of detail in my how-to, did you know I should say, in regards to this. I do how-to videos, don't I, Ivor? She's like looking at me, what was that about? Yes, we've done a few how-to videos in regards to education as well. So there you go, Bryce, wrapping it up in the Did You Know section.
Love it, love it, love it. So just a reminder, folks, that Escape from the City tonight, World's Deadliest Animals, Ivis is going to put some downloads, make some downloads available. Cut us some slack if it's not available at 3 o'clock then. It might be available sort of...
Well, they're listening to it now, so it's obviously past that time.
Yeah. So, but it will be available ASAP, so which is pretty good. Hey, good episode, liked your effort, thanks for dating.
Thank you, looking forward to part 2.
Part 2 next week. And until next week, Ben.
Knowledge is empowering, Bryce, but only if you act on it.
Very well said. See you next week, folks. Hey there, folks. Bryce Holdaway here. Before you go, if you're new to our community and only listened to maybe a handful of episodes, I thoroughly recommend that you go all the way back to episode number 1, where we unpack all of the foundations when it comes to property investing. Now, for those of you that might be a little bit time poor, I've got good news for you. We have a binge guide that you can download straight away, which summarises the first 20 episodes where Ben and I unpack the foundational pillars of the A, B, C, D, and so much more. And you can get that straight away. If you go to thepropertycouch.com.au/TPC20, you can download it and consume it whenever you want. It's completely free and available now. And for those of you, just a quick reminder that nothing we've spoken about today constitutes financial advice. We recommend that you reach out to your licensed professional advisor so that you can look at your unique circumstances before acting on any information. And don't forget, go to thepropertycouch.com.au/TPC20 and get your binge guide today.